Hey everyone, Razzbowski here, and welcome back to the Five Nights at Freddy's novel, The Silver Eyes. She struggled to get free when suddenly the thing's arm jerked up, and the hook slashed at her arm. She ducked away too late, and it cut her, the pain shocking, like freezing water. She tripped backwards and felt herself falling for long seconds, and then she was caught. "Charlie, are you okay?" It was John. He had caught her. She tried to nod, but she was shaking. She looked at her arm that was cut above the elbow, almost 4 inches long. It was bleeding freely, and she covered it with her hand, the gaps between her fingers welling over as her blood leaked through. "What happened?" It was Marla, rushing up behind her. "Charlie, I am so sorry. I must have hit a button that caused it to move. Are you okay?" Charlie nodded, a little less shaky. "I'm fine," she said. "It's not that bad." She moved her arm around experimentally. "See, no nerve damage," she said. "I'll be fine." Carl, Jessica and Lamar came hurrying out of the control room. "We should take her to ER, Carlton said. "I'm fine," Charlie insisted. She stood up, refusing John's help and bracing herself on the stage for a moment. She heard her Aunt Jen's voice in her head. "How much blood have you lost? You don't need to go to hospital." She could move her arm just fine, and she would not bleed to death from this. She felt dizzy, though. "Charlie, you look like a ghost," John said. "We need to get you out of here." "Okay," she said. Her thoughts were scattered and the injury hurt less than it should have. She took deep breaths as they headed for the exit, grounding herself. John handed her a piece of cloth and she put it to the cut to slow the bleeding. "Thanks," she said. And she looked at him. Something was missing. "Was that your tie?" she said, and he shrugged. "Do I look like a tie person?" She grinned. I thought it looked good on you." "Jason!" Marla yelled as they passed the arcade. "Move it or I'm leaving you behind." Jason ran to catch up. "Is Charlie okay?" he said anxiously. Marla caught her breath and put an arm around him. "She's fine," she reassured him. They walked briskly through the same corridor that they had entered through. Jason looked back as he was being guided out, studying the pictures on the wall once more before losing sight of them. The coloured lights from the stage were fading and the flashlight was throwing shapes and shadows on everything, making the drawings difficult to see, but Jason could swear he saw the figures moving in the pictures. They all hurried back through the empty building and out to the parking lot, not keeping watch for the guard. When they made it out to the car, Lamar, who had grabbed the big flashlight, flipped it on and shone it at Charlie's arm. She looked down at the cut. "Do you need stitches?" Marla said. "I am so sorry, Charlie. We were all being careless. It was not your fault," Charlie said. She knew she sounded annoyed, but she didn't mean to. Her voice was tight and clipped with pain. The shock was worn off, but that meant the wound had begun to hurt. "It's fine," Charlie said. After a long moment, the others gave in somewhat reluctantly. "We should at least get you some stuff to clean that up and bandage it," Marla said, wanting to do something to atone, however small. "There's a 24-hour drugstore just off the main road," Carlton offered. "Charlie, why don't you go with Marla and I'll drive your car back to the motel?" Jessica said. "I'm fine," Charlie protested half-heartedly, but she handed Jessica the keys. "You're a good driver, right?" Jessica rolled her eyes. "People from New York know how to drive, Charlie." John lingered a moment as Charlie was getting into Marla's car. She smiled at him. "I'm fine," she said. "I'll see you tomorrow." He looked at her like there was something more he wanted to say, but just nodded and left. "Okay," Marla said. "To the drugstore." Charlie twisted in her seat to look at Jason. "Did you have fun?" she said. "Games don't work," he said, obviously preoccupied. The drugstore was only a few minutes away. "You stay in the car," Marla commanded as they pulled to a stop. "Don't leave me out here," Jason pleaded. "I told you to stay," she repeated, a little confused by the fear in his voice. He didn't answer, and she and Charlie headed inside. As soon as they were gone, Jason pulled the drawing out of his pocket. He held it up under the faint lights of the parking lot to examine. It had not changed back. Bonnie the Bunny was reaching toward a child who was facing away from him. Curious, Jason scraped at the crayon lines with his fingernail. The wax came off easily, leaving its trace on the paper. As soon as Marla passed into the fluorescent-lit, air-cooled drugstore, she sighed and put her hands to her temples. "Oh, he's such a little brat," she said. "I like him," Charlie said honestly. She was still using John's tie to stanch the bleeding, and now in brighter light she peeled it back to see the cut. The bleeding had almost stopped. It was not as bad as it first appeared, though the tie was irreparably ruined. "Hey," she said. "How come you brought Jason anyway?" Marla didn't answer right away, setting her sights on the first aid aisle and heading for it. "Here we are," she said. "What do you think, Gauze?" "Sure, but don't call me Gauze." Charlie leaned into Marla but was ignored. "Antiseptic," Marla continued to grab the items. "So, Jason's dad and our mom have been married before he was born. I mean, obviously, and they're probably getting divorced. I know about it, but Jason doesn't. Oh no, Charlie said. They're fighting all the time, Marla went on, and it scares him, you know. I mean, my dad left when I was still a little kid, so I grew up with that. I was used to it. But I got to have a great stepdad, but for him. And they're sure not doing anything to make it easier. They're fighting right in front of us, so I didn't want to leave him alone with that for a week. I'm so sorry, Marla, Charlie said. Yeah, it's okay, Marla said. I'm leaving in a year anyway, I'm just worried about the little brat out there. He's really not a brat, Charlie said, and Marla grinned. I know. He's pretty great, right? I kinda like having him around. They paid for their supplies. The clerk, a teenage boy, didn't bat an eyelid at Charlie's moderately blood-splattered appearance. Outside, they sat on the hood of the car. Marla started to open a bottle of antiseptic, but Charlie held out a hand for it. I can do it myself, she said. Marla looked like she was about to argue, but she swallowed whatever she was about to say and handed Charlie the bottle and a piece of gauze. As Charlie awkwardly cleaned her arm, Marla smiled impishly. Speaking of people we like having around, are you having fun with John? Ow! That stings, and I don't know what you mean, Charlie said primly, suddenly putting all her attention on the task. You do too. He's following you around like a puppy, and you are loving it. Charlie bit back a smile. How about you and Lamar? She retorted. Me and who? Marla said. Here. She held out a hand for the bloody gauze, and Charlie handed it over, reaching for a clean strip. You're gonna have to let me tape it, Marla said. Charlie nodded and held the gauze in place as Marla reached for the tape. Come on, Charlie went on. I see the way you look at him. Nope! Marla smoothed down the last piece of tape and put everything back in the bag. Seriously, Charlie said as they got back into the car. You're adorable together. And your names are anagrams of each other. Marla and Lamar. It's meant to be. Both laughing, they headed back to the motel. Well, there we go, ladies and gentlemen. That is the end of Chapter 4, and unfortunately, the end of Razz reads the FNAF novel, The Silver Eyes. What a journey. Thank you so much for all the support shown on this series. And hey, guys, if you want to see me read more things like creepypasta stories and that, let me know down in the comment section below. That is really, really appreciated. I've actually gone ahead and read the rest of the book, and I thoroughly recommend it to you. I would give it 4 out of 5 stars. Honestly, it is fucking good. It really, really is good. Christmas is either now or around the corner, depending when this video goes up, but I would encourage you to go ahead and read it all. It's on Amazon. You can get it on Kindle, which means you can get it on your phone, you can get it on your computer. You don't need an actual Kindle device. There are many ways to get that book, and I think it's like £1 if you're in Britain, a couple of dollars if you're in America, and honestly, after Chapter 5, it kicks up a notch. It really does. I will at some point have a Five Nights at Freddy's The Silver Eyes review coming out, in which I give a detailed review. That's going to take a little bit of time to plan properly, and obviously I'm going to have a Christmas break, but it's a brilliant book. I thoroughly recommend it. Once again, thank you very much, Scott, for letting me read the first 4 chapters here on the channel. That is absolutely amazing for you, and all your support, ladies and gentlemen, watching this has been amazing. Thank you all so much. It means a lot to me that a lot of you suggested that I should read, that Scott should do like an audiobook and I should read it. It's very, very humbling. But either way, guys, I've been Razzbowski. You've been the beautiful bastards, as always, for watching, and I love each and every single one of you. Goodbye. Are you looking for sweet and oh so sexy deals on computer games and much, much more? Head over to g2a.com, where you can get a massive variety of games, codes, and more for discounted prices. And if you go ahead and use the coupon code Razz at the checkout, you'll get that sweet and sexy 3% off. Go over there right now. Click the link in the description, you beaut.